Hello, my name is Pastor Mike Salmon, and this is another episode of Harvest Fire. Welcome. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is going on in our city of Phoenix. Councilmen Sal DiCiccio, Councilman Jim Waring, Councilman Michael Nowowski, sorry if I mispronounced that, and Councilman Bill Gates, approximately 3-4 weeks ago, has voted for a amendment to be created for our invocation at the city of Phoenix. And that amendment, what it was, is so that the councilmen can have turns choosing and deciding who they want to give the invocation. And invocation is a time of prayer, and it's beseeching God to bless our city. The Satanists came in, they wanted to do an invocation. The councilman came in and said, look, we need to do an amendment because we know that Satanists are not really proclaiming the good for our society. Satanists, invocation, the purpose of invocation is, first of all, to encourage and to pray that God bless our city. How do you do that being a Satanist? A Satanist believes in self-indulgence. They believe in evil. They worship the power of darkness. They exalt that. How do you say that? Oh God, we speak evil that these. I mean, how do you do that? Even I don't believe in Islam. I don't believe in Judaism. I don't believe in Buddha, Hindu, etc. But even if an Islamic man came up and said, look, I want to pray, and they were a radical Islamist, and they went up there and they said, oh God, I pray destruction on the USA, I would say, forbid that. So it's not about just saying this, it's about anyone who wants to pray evil should be stopped. Okay, it doesn't even make sense. Nonetheless, the city of Phoenix, its citizens are filing a petition. This petition is demanding city councilman prayer. And this has come from Councilman Sal DiCiccio's site. And it says, after the Phoenix mayor and city council banned a 65-year tradition of prayer at our council meetings without notice to the public, today the public took the matter into their own hands. 2 citizens filed a petition demanding council action on prayer. According to the City of Phoenix Charter, the City Council must act on these petitions within 15 days. So I'm bidding you all to call up your councilman, if you're in the City of Phoenix, and see who it is, and encourage them. We want prayer back in our city. This is an issue that will not go away, and we're going to fight. And I thank God for people like Councilman Sal DiCiccio, who's standing in the forefront, fighting for prayer. Now, there's a lot of things that are coming out. People saying, well, this is a separation of church and state and etc. These people are driving me nuts. The reason why is because this is very evident that people who speak and say separation of church and state have no history. Look, folks, you guys have Google, you have YouTube, you have all these resources to help you with understanding church and state, the separation of church and state. Why don't you study it before you make a comment on Councilman DiCiccio's and others' website and Facebook saying separation of church and state? Obviously, you have no clue what you're talking about. Here's what I'm talking about. Thomas Jefferson made that statement back in the 1700s, and he said it. It was a statement. It's a concept. It is not a law, as some of people. Well, this is separation of church and state. It's the law. It's the law. It's not the law, folks. Stop treating it like the separation of church and state is law. It's a concept, okay? And then let's even look at the concept. It came back in 1644 by a man named Roger Williams. Here's what he said. He said, a hedge or a wall of separation between the garden of the church and the wilderness of the world, okay? So think about that. Jefferson even wrote, he says, I contemplate with sovereign reverence the act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. In other words, I cannot force you to believe what I believe. I cannot force you to be a Christian. I cannot force you to be Catholic. I cannot force you to be whatever religion. This government cannot force you. But also, the government cannot stop me from believing what I believe. Guys, here's how it works. Councilman Sal DiCiccio, Bill Gates, and others, just because they're councilmen does not mean they cease becoming Christians. Just because you're in public office doesn't mean you cease being a Christian. You have to live by your own convictions, even in your government. And the government cannot stop you voting, and deciding and dealing with government, with laws, etc., according to your own beliefs and faith. We don't cease becoming Christians just because we're in government officials. Even the Congress, the First Amendment says this: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or the press, or the right of the people to peaceably assemble and to petition the government from a redress of grievance. So when you look at this, how can the government, how do people say separation of church and state, yet the state itself is saying we cannot stop people from believing what they believe? Does our Constitution end? Does our rights end on us because we become government officials? Does Councilman Sal DiCiccio should cease from being a Christian or believe in prayer just because he's a government official? It's ludicrous, folks. Christians don't stop being Christians just because they're government officials. They still need to act according to their religious beliefs. And there are some councilmen who are on the City of Phoenix Council who have done just that. They cease being Christians. They say, well, I know I'm a Christian, but I need to vote according to the Constitution, whatever the Constitution is, or I need to vote according to the public of the people, while they themselves cease becoming believers. That's not what the government or our Constitution or anyone says. A councilman is voted in. I vote for my councilman or whoever the councilman is based on their faith. You may vote for councilman based on something else. But could you imagine that once they become into office, they cease becoming who you call them to be? Councilman Sal DiCiccio doesn't stop becoming a Christian because he decides. Councilman Jim Waring doesn't stop becoming a Christian just because. Councilman Bill Gates doesn't stop becoming a Christian just because. I mean, we've seen the opposite way. Look at Councilman Tom Simplot. The man is gay. And when he took office, what did he do? He started fighting for the gay rights. No one said anything about that. As a matter of fact, they applauded him. Yay, you fight for gay rights. And they exalted him. But what happened? Sal DiCiccio is fighting for Christian rights and religious rights and fighting for prayer. And what are you people doing? Getting on the line saying separation of church and state with no idea. Just even think about that. Think about that concept. When you walk up to the steps of the building, which is the House is the U.S. Supreme Court, you can see near the top of the building a row of the world's lawgivers. Each one is facing the middle. Take a look at that picture right there. And they're facing the middle. And what are they facing? A full frontal view. It's Moses, and he's holding the 10 Commandments. Do you think that when they did the Supreme Court, that they believed in the separation of law and state like you guys do, church and state? They don't. Because the people who were in office were Christians. They were believers, and they believed in the law. And that's what they did. They still were Christians. It doesn't mean they cease it. As a matter of fact, you remember Patrick Henry? Give us life or give me liberty or give me death. Watch this. That patriot and founding father of our country said, watch what he says. It cannot be emphasized too strongly or too often that this great nation was founded not by religionists, but by Christians, not on religions, but on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Oh my goodness. What happened to separation of church and state? Do you believe that you in 2016 know better than our founding fathers who were Christians, who stood and fought for Christian and religious rights? Suddenly you come in and say Christians have no right to speak up or to pray? Even your own money, in God we trust. Look, it says in God we trust. You don't believe in God? Then you don't trust in the money. Please hand your money. I'm going to give you an address to send all your money because it says God on there. It's 7310 North 27th Avenue in Phoenix, Arizona. Please send all your money there because it says God, in God we trust. And since you want separation of church and state, and that should be separated there. Take your money. If you really believe that, then give your money all up to the church. I'm sure Harvest Christian Fellowship, Phoenix, Arizona would love to have it, and they'll use it for a better right. Here's my point, folks. Please study before you get on the thing and say separation of church and state. Our whole government, our society, and everything in it has God in it. It has religion in it. It has faith in it. Everything. Separation of church and state. And it's a freedom. Listen, guys, it's freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. Freedom of is different than freedom from. The government is not to have freedom from religion. We have the freedom of religion. It's about The government not interfering with religion, not religion not interfering with the government. I'm Pastor Mike Salmon, and this is Harvest Fire. God bless you.